Sports cars are desirable by definition, some more so than others. The Aston Martin Virage is a real head-turner, thanks to a lavish interior, sensuous styling, and of course, lots of power. It also has a 2.8 million rand price tag, which means it carries the burden of high expectations. The big question is, does this car deliver on all that promise? The Virage looks, well, just like an Aston Martin. The shape is sleek and sporty, with a long prowling nose and a short high rear deck. But at 4.7 meters long and 1.9 meters wide, it's imposing rather than wieldy. It's also not that different from a DB9, although it does have a more muscular presence. Having said that, the Virage isn't as hardcore, as pugilistic, as downright aggressive as the DBS either. Instead, it steers a careful path between DB9 and DBS territory. Bespoke is perhaps the easiest way to describe the cabin. It's really only a two-seater, but the execution is flawless and the craftsmanship tangible. For a sports car, the comfort levels are high too. Considering the size and the weight of the Virage, it's more than competent through the twisties. I really like the steering feel of this car. There's lots of feedback and it has a nice meaty weight to it. Of course, the adaptive suspension also helps and ensures that the car is always composed, even when pressing on quite hard. It comes as no surprise that the Virage is no slouch in dynamic terms. The car races from rest to 100 in 4.6 seconds, while the top speed is an eye-watering 299 kilometers an hour. But with a curb mass of almost 1.8 tons, it's easy to underestimate how quickly the car gathers speed. As supercars go, the Aston Martin Virage is one of the most approachable. It's certainly very attractive to look at. It has all the bells and whistles you could hope for, and it's as rapid as you want it to be. But most of all, this car is a true aristocrat. An evocative shape, close attention to detail and rapid dynamics ensure that the Virage is a very desirable sports car, even if it's thirsty around town.
In Cape Town, we drove a slightly less aristocratic but no less capable machine. This is the BMW M6 convertible, and I am a little concerned. I do like performance cars and I do like convertibles, but I'm not so mad about the combination of the two. I hated the previous generation M6, and I'm not the biggest fan of the current 6 Series, although I do love the current M5, with which this car shares its engine and a few other things as well. So, this should be interesting. Adding in no small measure to the interest factor is the twin-turbo V8 with an astonishing 412 kilowatts and 680 newton meters. The M6 is gifted with a top speed of 305 kilometers an hour, although it'll only do that once you pay BMW for the optional M Drivers package. With the sun up and the top down, it delivers an open-air driving experience that's difficult to match. The thing is, if you want it to behave like a big, lazy, top-down cruiser, it'll do just that. You won't feel anything from the steering, you won't feel anything from the gearbox, and the mighty engine will just waft you along at whatever speed you choose. But when you do want to get going, the big M6 responds with an incredible mix of acceleration, sound, and a sense of speed that you wouldn't expect from a convertible that's equipped like this one. Premium materials and high-end equipment add to the impressive mechanical setup to create a bundle of joy that's worth the 1.5 million rand price tag. There's no doubt it feels better when you're driving harder, but it does manage to deliver on the more traditional cabriolet attributes. It's a head-turner and the interior has a luxury bias, but subtle touches remind you that you're behind the wheel of a true performer. I was fully expecting to not like the M6. Given my disdain for all things BMW 6 Series, I was expecting this to be a fat, obnoxious convertible with too much power and not enough driving enjoyment. And I was comprehensively wrong. The noise, the power, the drive, and the luxury make this one of the most enjoyable M cars ever. The V8 is the undoubted highlight of the M6, but as a package, it's hard to fault. It's one of our favorites of the year because it's a very balanced machine, whether you're driving hard or just cruising.
One of the most eagerly awaited and most hyped cars of 2012 was a low-slung, lightweight sports coupe from the Toyota stable, and despite the hype, the 86 actually lived up to our expectations. Toyota is quite clear about the fact that the 86 is not about sheer speed. This is not a car that's going to win you too many prizes in the Traffic Light Grand Prix. 0 to 100 time in the low 7-second bracket, top speed 226 kilometers an hour. So it's fast, but it's not super fast. The Toyota brand may not be the most exciting, but it's no stranger to building sporty, driver-orientated machines either. The immortal GT2000, of which only 351 were built way back in the 60s, was arguably the best no-compromise Toyota sports car ever. The 86 draws on the GT2000's essentials and was designed to put a spring in the Toyota brand's step. The result is a trimmed-down, purist 2+2 sports coupe focused on driving appeal rather than outright muscle. With compact proportions linking that swooping bonnet to a muscle-bound rump, flared wheel arches and scalloped sides, this is a car that looks at its very best on the move, proving that motion is the final vital ingredient of the Toyota's design. Wide opening doors allow easy access to a pair of low-mounted, emphatically bolstered bucket seats trimmed in a mix of cloth and leather. Soft-touch plastics and faux carbon fiber surfaces add to the purposeful ambiance of the cockpit, as does the switchgear array. Like the rest of the car, the cabin of the 86 is simple and driver-focused. The ergonomics are great, with decent seats, a grippy steering wheel, and clearly legible instruments. And for what is ostensibly a purist sports car, it has a long list of standard kit. The flat-4 2-litre engine's 147 kilowatt and 205 newton meters may appear humble, but it provides plenty of brio. Making frequent use of the short-throw gearbox, chasing the engine revs into the red, and reveling in the thrill of heel and toe downshifts is at the core of its appeal. In short, the 86 emerges as a classic in the making. Decent power, low weight and a superb chassis deliver thrilling dynamics. The 86 is a superb sports car with purist appeal, but you have to give it stick to enjoy it to the full.
Our travels in 2012 also took us to the Knysna Hill Climb, where we sampled the world's best hot hatch. Introduced at the same time as the Renault-sponsored event, the Megane RS Trophy was the first Megane fitted with a 195 kilowatt 2-litre turbo motor. It's 10 grand more than the RS Cup, but that mainly buys you a few different bits and pieces on the outside. The uprated motor gives the RS a 0 to 100 time of 6 seconds flat and a top speed quicker than a lot of high-end German machines, 254 kilometers an hour to be exact. The thing is, the regular RS, if you can call it regular, is such a well-sorted machine that I was worried that the extra power in this car would throw it off a bit, make it feel a bit fuzzy around the edges, but it hasn't. It's still so well balanced, and there's such immense grip from the specially designed Bridgestone tyres and the limited slip diff. It is stupendous, this car. It's one of our top 10 cars, not just because it's a great package made even better, but because it's relatively easy to get so much out of it. You don't need a racetrack. Just a few quick corners on an empty road will bring a grin to your face. That's assuming the grip and acceleration off the line didn't already do that. The interior of any Megane is a collection of simple design, decent spec and good materials. It's one of the better cabins on the market simply because it doesn't skimp on spec, but it isn't cluttered or difficult to use. The Megane RS Trophy is available as a limited edition, but the good news is the 195 kilowatt motor will be made available in the RS Sport and the RS Cup versions as well in the near future. So that then begs the question, is the 10,000 Rand premium you pay for this car over the RS Cup really worth a few different styling bits and some bragging rights? For some, it might be, but for us, it really almost makes no difference because whichever you choose, you will be driving the king of hot hatches. The limited edition trophy version may be scarce, but the Megane RS is one of our picks for 2012 because it's the best in its class.
If there was a prize for a car that turns the most heads, then the Range Rover Evoque would certainly be in line for an award. We've never been swamped by so many onlookers and been bombarded by so many questions during the time this vehicle's been with us. But then, of course, this is a Range Rover with a difference. The Evoque is Range Rover's attempt at a vehicle that's both innovative and more compact than the juggernauts usually occupying its stable. Compact means more wieldy, more efficient and a lot easier to drive. But because this is a Range Rover, the Evoque also has to deliver as far as luxury and prestige are concerned. On the move, the Evoque feels more sports car than sport utility. The chassis remains admirably composed despite the vehicle's SUV-style height, and it corners with controlled intent. But the 2.2-litre turbo diesel is laggy, which impacts negatively on the Evoque's dynamic personality, especially at altitude. In pure execution terms, the Evoque's interior is well equipped and comfortable, but this coupe has a problem. Access to the rear seats is really difficult, and because of that sloping roofline, headroom is at a premium too. Still, the cabin isn't short of upmarket appeal, and it expresses an exclusive approach that's superior to the mass-market designs typical of even top-end marques. Leather abounds together with high-tech trim finishes, while the Evoque's aura of sophistication is underscored by its comprehensive spec list. Attention to detail is impressive, and there's a cohesion to the interior design that suggests long-term aesthetic appeal rather than a mere expression of current fashion. The Evoque heralds a new era for the Range Rover brand. It's smaller, wieldier, lighter and trendier than the Range Rover Sport, but in diesel form it doesn't quite have the pep you'd expect. And for my money, I'd go for the petrol. And from a practicality perspective, the 5-door makes more sense too. The Evoque is a brave, innovative and hugely appealing take on lifestyle motoring, and a hugely desirable one too.
We at RPM are unashamed fans of the Audi A4 Avant. It, like most station wagons in South Africa, is completely underrated because for a car whose core purpose is practicality, it offers some of the best looks and one of the best drives of anything in its price range. South Africans are SUV crazy, but if you're looking out for something a little different, you might be glad to know that the A4 Avant has a country cousin. The A4 Allroad is quite simply an A4 Avant that's been tweaked and adjusted to give it a bit more ability when it comes to the path less travelled. The Allroad is quite obviously different from the Avant. In the front it's got a bigger bumper with grey and chrome plastic bits, which rather than looking like cheap add-ons actually enhance the style of the already good-looking Avant. It's a look that draws your attention immediately and sets this car apart not only from any other Audi, but everything else on the road. But what the pictures don't tell you about this car is how much more attitude it has than its cousin, a car better known for its style. On paper, it looks like Audi have just added a few extras. In reality, they've transformed this car from a good-looking city machine into something that looks like it'll take on anything you're brave enough to throw at it. The mechanical improvements include an increased ride height of 180mm, a wider track, and an off-road detection mode that adjusts the driving systems to suit the surface, which is good news, especially if you own a game farm or plan on entering a rally. Of course, if you actually own a game farm or you're planning to enter a rally, perhaps the beige interior with their light inserts aren't the best idea. But there is some real practicality in here. 1400 litres of space with the seats folded down and a reversible boot floor, along with a whole bunch of options like an automated tailgate and various bits and pieces to help whatever it is you're carrying stay in place. The Allroad offers space, practicality, style and a great drive. And even though it's got modest off-road credentials, it's got more than enough to handle most out-of-town excursions. And the good news is you'll be able to experience all of that for yourself in 2013. Audi have announced one petrol and one diesel all-road model for the local market, with pricing starting at 433,000 Rand. The A4 Allroad is the best excuse yet to sell your SUV for something more stylish and more practical on a daily basis without giving up the ability of modest off-roading.
Expect more of our favourite drives after the break, including the Citroën DS5, Fiat's Zippy 500 Abarth SS, the Golf GTI Edition 35,
and a racing car with a difference.